Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Monday. It is May 10th. This will be our chart lesson for the day. And we had a really nice sell-off here. There was maybe one chance to catch this, and I just don't see anything on my chart down through here that really jumps out and says, "Hey, you got to get in on this trend." Um, it was just a difficult setup. I mean, there's some setups here, but the signal bar doesn't work on my chart. Maybe you had a little better look on your chart. If you did, some of these trades, I'll point them out that you probably could have entered. But on my chart, there's just no real chance to enter. And what looked like was going to be a tight range day. You can clearly see the original blue channel. And then once we broke out, I did the measured moves, and measured move up is up here, and measured move down is down here. And you can see we moved down on that original breakout, a perfect measured move, moved back up to the top, had a failed breakout, which led to the sell-off that went into the 2 o'clock hour. It's about 2:35 right now. So fairly strong sell-off. You would have wanted to measure this first leg and then look for a possible measured move. And we actually went further than that. By this point, I would have been playing the range and looked for the measured move on the range. But you probably want to keep that on there all the same, just to get an idea. And you can see we did bounce there momentarily, but we found really strong support here early on. That was the problem. And that made you think there's a possibility of a range, but once we broke out this high side, it was all downhill from there. This is a pretty strong sell-off, and there's a few decent trades in here, but there's just no real way, unless you caught this one trade, there's no real way to get in this on the way down, at least not on my chart. No way safely. So let me back out just a hair more, and you can clearly see that. And there's another two leg. You could look at this as one leg, and then this is a second leg. They don't really match up, and they don't really get anywhere close to a measured move. Just for fun of it, we'll put it on here. And you can see this sell-off we far outdid. Well, we far outdid that. You can see where we pushed through and we pulled back and tested that a few times, but we just continued on down. And we really, we bounced off those very lows, but we really hadn't come out of there yet. We're still bouncing around. It wouldn't surprise me if we're not going back to test these lows at down here around 41.20, 41.17 to 41.20 area. So that could be where we're headed. Whether or not we'll get there, we'll have to see. But fairly strong two-legged correction down today. There's at least two legs in here based on what I just showed you there. So I'm going to remove this. But let's back out. We'll go through the trades. It won't take long. There's not a lot of trades. With all this price action, there's just not a lot of trades today. And this stuff gets harder to trade. It was rather consistent off these lows, but you don't really get any setups. So, I mean, you just can't enter when you're in this tighter range. This is what you're looking at early on. It turns out it's two-tiered, but early on you're just looking at this, and you just can't go long right into the highs, and you can't get short. You need to be able to get in close to these lows with a good signal bar, or close to these highs going short with a good signal bar, and you don't get it. But we'll talk about that when we get there. We had an interesting open here. We had the leg down, a close outside, and a bunch of attempts to go lower. But basically, you got a little double bottom there. So first entry, second entry, you can clearly see there's a couple of legs up. It fails, gives you a nice signal bar. I marked this one green, but you could, if you're looking for prices to probably make a new high after this little swing up, and we tried to go lower multiple times. So at this point, you'd probably be thinking range day, and we might go test these highs. That doesn't end up happening, but that's what it's kind of looking like at this point. So if you took that long, I don't see any problem with it. It's a failed second entry short when it breaks above this bar right here. So when prices broke higher, that's a failed second entry short. So technically there's no, it actually didn't. So notice the double bottom, and then first entry, and then second entry, and that's where it broke higher the first time. So that's your failure when it broke one tick higher. And there's a higher low right here, but we've already had a break in a new high. Yeah, there's a chance you could get a second leg, but you can't risk that, especially not with those. That's a lot of overlap and congestive looking right there. But we push on through the EMA, pull back, and notice you got a double top up here, and you get a first entry, second entry. So that's a second entry long right there. You might have considered entering on that one, but I just think it's a little bit too early to determine if we're going lower yet. But when you get the second entry there, I like entering on that one. Just make sure you got enough room to get out before that last low. And if you do, then you can take it. And then notice we push down to a new low and then pull back, and you get a lower high there with another nice signal bar. And it is right off that same key entry point and the EMA. It's a little close to the low right there, but we're trending down here now. And so I did mark that one green. It's a little bit aggressive, but it turns out to be a fairly nice trade and nice move down. And you've clearly got a trend working down here, and it's a key entry point. So some reasons to like that lower high there. The only thing going against it is, and the reason I do like it is because it broke higher first and then turned down and went out the other side. I like trading that as an engulfing bar. Make sure you understand that engulfing bars, that's a much more advanced trade, and you need to be a really good chart trader that's really consistently profitable every day if you're going to trade engulfing bars. Otherwise, don't take those trades. You could still wait for that to close and maybe go short one tick below it. But I'd be careful trading those engulfing bars, even when I talk about them, because you need to be a pretty good chart reader to trade those, or you're going to make some mistakes. So it takes it a minute to get going. This thing drops on down rather strongly. And then this is where we just start into this range. And early on, it looks like the range is just right here, and we've had a failed breakout. And eventually you probably wouldn't want to adjust it just a little lower right there. But that's where I started with it. And we're just chugging along, and I see no chance to get long here and no chance to really get short either. There's just no setups here. You might have said, hey, there's a chance to get short here, but that's just a first entry, and you should have drawn your. That just looks a little too early to be going short yet. So notice we do make a triple test here, so you might have considered that, but being right into the EMA when we're looking for a measured move down here, again, I don't recommend it. I think you'd be better off looking for a short than a long at this point. And so we just keep working sideways here, and there's just no real good short setup, and even though the bias is short, and there's really no good long setup either, except for maybe this one off this double bottom after we've tested it multiple times. So, but again, it's a really large signal bar. I mean, it's not as big as some we've had in the past, but that's still 11 tick signal bar when your high is just barely, not very far above that. So you just really don't have enough room to scalp out there to risk that one. Unless you let it break higher and drop a limit order back here with plenty of room, that would be the only way I would recommend taking that trade. Otherwise, I think you're better off to skip it. We'll mark it green under that circumstance. And there's no chance to get short, and there's still no chance to get long to ride this up. But notice if you do your measured move, it turns out to be here. We run up to that exact location. We try to go higher once, twice, and it fails, and you get a big bearish bar. It's a little bit sideways, but you can see it's like a breakout pullback. And now you've got a triple test, nice signal bar. You might choose to go short because this is a range. And we're probably going to at least come back and test this and maybe go all the way to the lows. And so you may take that one. I marked it green. It's aggressive. So, but it drops on down, and it actually goes right on through. And we just start working sideways again. We do have a triple test here. And notice you got a new swing low right there. It's lower than that low, that double bottom. And you get a first entry. And when it breaks lower right here, you get a second entry short. Notice that new low. You back up. And when it breaks lower below that bar, when this bar right here breaks below this bar, that's your first entry. Then we correct, go back up, and when it breaks lower right there, that's your second entry short. And notice the triple test. Notice it looks like a range. We're kind of going sideways. That's your chance to get short at the very highs. Below the EMA, we did pull back and test the breakout with this. If it wasn't for that triple test, I wouldn't like this trade. But with the triple test and the second entry short, I like it. And that was a quick, easy move. And we just continued on lower. And notice this line is your measured move of the range from here to here, from the two, between the two blue lines. That's your measured move. That's about as good as it gets on picking a measured move. And we did make a new low here, and we made a higher low, but that's not a very good signal bar. It's too close to being outside the top third. I think it's only out by a tick or so, but I just don't think it's worth risking. And we're not seeing rejection off this low. Prices are hanging around. It ends up moving on, but it's not rejection, and you need to see rejection. This is what rejection looks like. Look how we came back to that line and tested it, and instantly prices sell off. That's what rejection looks like. And when you hang around with all these little bars, that's not rejection. Eventually prices bounce on out of there, but they don't do it on rejection of a test. So, and that's what you want to see, like this right here, and then go short with it. There is a higher low right here. Not a good enough signal bar, as we talked about. You push up and you get a failed second entry short right here. And maybe you even want to count this one, but you're just going sideways here. Nothing much exciting going on. Even though you're off the key entry point here, you're right back into the highs. No way to go long there. And when it does finally break higher, you don't get a setup. So we run up here, right back to the highs again. And you make a lower high again, another engulfing bar. It breaks higher first and turns down. Look how far we are away from the EMA. You've got one leg down, and it looks like you're going to have a two-legged correction and another leg down. So you may trade this trade. Again, I would probably, if you're not a good a good chart reader, I would wait till this signal bar closes. And then when it does that, there's not a setup. There's just too much stem there. But on the engulfing bar, it breaks higher first and then turns down, and it ends up working. So, but again, I don't recommend those engulfing bars for less than profitable traders. So you need to be a pretty good chart reader. But notice we got the overshoot, the close outside, two legs. Notice there's a leg up, correction, leg up. So there's two legs to a new high, then it sells off. And that's perfect price action, really. And it's a failed breakout of the upper part of the range right there. This is a fairly bearish bar after going sideways there and breaking out. There's a little double top. There's a good chance that's going to fail and come. Look how far away it is from the EMA as well. There's a good chance that's going to fail and come back. And at very least, it's going to come back and test this breakout. So if you've got enough room there, you might take that trade. Generally, I'm going to tell you wait on a lower high because you made a new high here. And if it weren't for that, if this was a lower high or we had a little different setup, I might mark it red. But under this circumstance, you got to mark that green. And look how it shoots straight through the EMA, pulls back and tries to go higher once, pulls back and tries to go higher twice, and it actually breaks higher, fails, and there's you another engulfing bar. You could go short one tick below that. If you wait for this bar to close, there's no way to go short right there. It's not a good enough signal bar. But if you wait just a minute, notice you got another double top here, and you try to go higher once, you turn back down, you try to go higher twice, and it fails. So a failed second entry long right at the key entry point, you can go short there. One tick below that bar right there. And there's a little hidden second entry right there. Notice you're on the low, you move up, pull back, move up, and turn down. So there is a hidden second entry short there as well. So another reason to maybe like that trade. And we run on down. And at this point, this just looks like this channel here. We get a break, and notice you come up two legs. Signal bar is no good there, even though it would have probably worked. But we come back again. You don't really have a key entry point, but you still have the EMA here. Again, no setup right there. Drops on down. You don't want to be going long here. You just be looking for shorts. But notice your new low, and you get a first entry, and then you turn back up, and when it breaks lower, you get a second entry short there. It is right into a little double bottom, but you can clearly see that trend line working down, and it's turned prices multiple times there, and there's still plenty of room down to this low, a measured move, and there's plenty of room down to what looks like might be a channel here, with this being the trend channel line. It turns out that's a midline in the end, which that gives you even more room to go short with if you want to go short. But it's a little concerning that it's right into that double bottom, but I think there's enough. Look at the EMA starting to point straight down. Everything's below it. It looks like things are kind of picking up, and you would probably want to look for at least a measured move down, and you can see that puts you down to right in here. And we clearly run down to that pretty quickly and then some. So, and again, we run on down, we make that measured move for the range here, and this is your measured move on the first leg down, and we actually shoot through that and keep going. But you can see it bounced right off this was your original range, the two dark blue, and that's your measured move, that dash blue, and you can see we bounced off that for a while before prices pushed on through. And the problem is you've got some profit takers there that are going to take profits at that measured move. That might be short from way up here or might be short from in here somewhere, but a lot of people, your smarter traders, are probably going to take profits there. Then we drop on, we actually drop through there. Again, there's no setup, and this is why when you don't see rejection at a support area that you're thinking about buying, this is why you have to have rejection, because if you don't, prices could drop on through and you're burned trying to buy this. And this is a really strong long move here too. It stays away from the EMA a long time, so you got to avoid those.